The pump changed its sound just after noon. Thomas Turner heard the steady hum become a hollow rattle, then a rough cough that sent air through the irrigation pipe. The stream reaching the vegetable rows weakened to a broken trickle and stopped. He shut the motor down before it could overheat. The July sun stood directly above the Turner farm in Washington County, Tennessee. Young cucumber leaves had already begun folding inward. Late tomato seedlings waited in small nursery containers beside the packing shed, their roots trapped in soil that could dry within hours. The shallow well had not failed completely. It simply needed time to recover, and the plants did not know how to wait. 13-year-old Noah Turner looked at the silent pump, then ran toward the workshop. Behind the building stood a large closed water tank on a timber platform. 3 mismatched downpipes entered its upper side. Noah climbed onto the lower step, opened a valve near the base, and watched the clear hose beneath it. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then water entered the tube. The flow was slow, but it was steady. Thomas followed his son around the building and stared at the patched metal gutters fixed beneath the roofs of the workshop, packing shed, and equipment shelter. "How much is left in there?" he asked. Noah looked at the faded level mark on the tank. "Not enough for everything." The next question was harder. Would it be enough for anything that mattered? If you enjoy quiet farm stories about practical ideas, honest failures, and people who notice what others overlook, subscribe and join us. Sometimes the thing that saves a crop begins as scrap lying behind someone else's barn. 6 weeks earlier, Noah had started bringing home broken gutters. Some were bent in the middle. Others had rusted ends, crushed joints, or holes left by old fasteners. He found them beside demolished sheds and in piles of discarded building material across the county. Neighbors saw him dragging long pieces of metal behind a garden cart. One man asked whether Noah planned to build a roof on the ground. Another said the Turner farm had begun growing rust instead of vegetables. They laughed and pointed as Noah sorted the pieces beside the workshop. He never argued. He measured every section, marked the usable metal, and placed the worst pieces in a separate pile. His father's concerns were more serious. Old gutters leaked. Roofs stood at different heights. Poorly supported metal could tear away during a storm. And even if Noah collected water, a tank sitting too low might not produce enough pressure to move it through an irrigation line. Noah did not claim he could supply the entire farm. He chose 3 clean roofs close to the vegetable plot and began measuring where every drop went when rain reached them. While everyone else saw broken metal, Noah was calculating how much sky those roofs could catch. The Turner farm depended on one shallow well. During an ordinary season, it supplied the house, the packing area, and several acres of vegetables sold at a local weekend market. During dry weather, Thomas divided irrigation into short cycles and waited between them while the water level recovered. Noah had watched that routine for years. He had also watched thunderstorms pour water from the farm roofs. Rain struck the workshop, rushed from the lower roof edge, carved small trenches beside the foundation, and disappeared into the roadside ditch. A few weeks later, the family used electricity to pull water back out of the ground. The contradiction bothered him. His grandfather Earl showed him an old concrete cistern behind an abandoned chicken house. Long before Noah was born, the family had collected roof water there for washing tools and watering a kitchen garden. The old system had failed after the downpipes rusted away. The water was never free, Earl told him. We just paid for it before we needed it. Noah began with a small test. He mounted one straight gutter section beneath the equipment shelter and directed the outlet into several empty buckets. A modest spring shower filled them faster than Thomas expected. One short roof edge did not produce much. Several roofs together were different. Noah sketched a system on brown packing paper. Gutters from 3 buildings would feed separate downpipes. Removable screens would catch leaves. The first dirty runoff would be diverted away from the storage tank. Cleaner water arriving afterward would enter a closed container. A pipe from the bottom would carry it downhill towards several short vegetable rows. Thomas made the limits clear. Water collected from a farm roof could contain dust, bird waste, insects, roofing particles, and other contamination. It would be used only for irrigation, never for drinking or washing produce. Noah agreed. His next problem was pressure. Water moving without a pump depended on height. If the tank stood level with the garden, The flow might be too weak to reach the final plants. The ground behind the workshop was already higher than the vegetable rows. Noah proposed placing the tank on a low, heavily braced platform rather than building a tall tower. He did not need a powerful stream. He needed a slow release close to the roots. Earl helped him compare the roof heights with a clear tube filled with water. Thomas inspected the old tank for structural damage. Noah spent evenings straightening salvageable gutters between wooden blocks. He cut away rusted ends instead of pretending they could be sealed. Short sections were overlapped where longer pieces had failed. Every joint was positioned so water crossed it in the correct direction. For the first time, the pile beside the workshop began looking less like scrap. It looked like a path. The only thing missing was rain. The first real storm arrived during the night. Noah woke to rain striking the metal roof and ran outside with Thomas under a pair of old waterproof coats. Water entered the first gutter immediately. It also escaped from nearly every mistake Noah had made. One joint sprayed a thin stream against the workshop wall. Another dripped steadily onto the ground. A long section had been installed without enough slope, so water collected in the middle until it spilled over the outer edge. Leaves blocked the screen beneath the packing shed. The backed-up flow jumped the gutter and began digging a hole beside the foundation. Then Thomas saw the tank platform move. Noah had built it from old wooden pallets reinforced with boards. The structure looked strong while the tank was empty. As hundreds of pounds of water accumulated, one corner sank into the softened ground. Thomas closed the inlet and ordered Noah to open the drain. They stood in the rain while much of the collected water ran harmlessly into the grass. The irrigation line performed no better. When Noah opened the lower valve, water reached the beginning of the nearest row but barely moved through the rest. The final emitters remained dry. Thomas looked at the leaking gutters, the tilted tank, and the half-working hose. A system that fails during rain will not save us during drought. Noah knew he was right. The following morning, he dismantled the platform. Thomas helped him prepare a compacted gravel base and a properly braced frame capable of supporting the full tank. Noah checked the structure at every stage instead of assuming old wood was strong because it looked thick. He corrected the gutter slopes and replaced weak joints. Sections too damaged to repair were removed completely. More supports were added beneath the longest runs so the metal could not sag when filled with water. The small leaf screens became removable baskets that could be cleaned quickly. Noah also built a simple first flush diversion. The earliest roof water, carrying the greatest amount of dirt and debris, entered a separate pipe before cleaner runoff was allowed into storage. The pressure problem required a different compromise. Noah had tried to feed too much garden. He shortened the irrigation lines and selected only the late tomatoes, young cucumbers, and nursery plants most vulnerable to interrupted watering. The tank outlet was widened, and the low-pressure drip lines were laid as level as possible. The next storm revealed more flaws. One gutter vibrated under a heavy flow. A narrow screen clogged faster than expected. A hose connection leaked near the first row. But the platform remained solid. Most of the roof water reached the tank, and the level rose steadily. The neighbors continued calling the system a collection of broken gutters. They were not entirely wrong. The metal remained bent, scarred, and mismatched. But now every piece had a direction, every outlet had a destination, and every failure had forced Noah to understand the system more clearly. Several late spring storms filled most of the tank. After each one, Noah cleaned the screens, inspected the supports, and marked the water level. Some rains added several inches. Others passed too quickly to contribute much. Then summer settled over the county. For nearly 3 weeks, no useful rain reached the Turner farm. The surface soil hardened. Dust clung to the lower tomato leaves. Thomas irrigated before sunrise and after sunset, avoiding the hottest hours, but the shallow well recovered more slowly each day. The first warning came when the pump lost pressure near the end of a watering cycle. Thomas shut it down, waited, and tried again later. The next time, air entered the line sooner. On the hottest afternoon of the month, the pump stopped before the young plants had received water. That was when Noah opened the rain tank. The stored supply could not support the entire vegetable plot. Mature plants with deeper roots would have to endure reduced irrigation. The family's limited well water went to the most valuable rows and the household. Noah directed the tank toward the plants most likely to die first. He opened the valve only partway. Water moved slowly through the first short line, appearing from each emitter as a dark spot in the dry soil. The second line took longer. The third barely worked because part of it crossed slightly higher ground. Noah shortened it immediately. One connection began leaking. He placed a bucket beneath it, repaired the joint, and poured the captured water beside a tomato rather than losing it. The system required constant attention. Low pressure made every small blockage important. A piece of debris could stop an emitter. A kink in the hose could deprive half a row. Noah walked the lines with his fingers near the soil, checking each damp circle. By evening, the plants had not received enough water for vigorous growth. They had received enough to avoid immediate collapse. The level inside the tank fell each day. No rain appeared in the forecast. The well improved only slightly during the night. Thomas warned Noah that the stored supply might run out before the weather changed. Noah reduced each watering period. He did not spread the remaining water across more crops to make the system look successful. He concentrated it on fewer plants where it could make a meaningful difference. Some cucumbers wilted during the afternoon and recovered after sunset. The youngest tomatoes stopped growing. Nursery containers were grouped in partial shade to reduce their demand. The tank was not solving the drought. It was buying time. And every evening, the pale mark on its side moved lower. 2 cucumber plants died before the dry period ended. Several tomato seedlings lost lower leaves, and one nursery tray had to be abandoned after its roots became too dry. The rainwater system did not protect every plant connected to it. The untreated rows did not become a dead wasteland either. Some mature vegetables survived on deeper soil moisture and the small amount of water the well could still provide. The comparison was imperfect because crops of different ages responded differently. But most of the young plants receiving slow water from the tank remained alive. Their growth paused. Their leaves lost some color. Yet their stems stayed firm, and their growing tips remained green. That mattered when the well began recovering. The plants did not have to be replaced. They resumed growth from established roots rather than starting the season again. Then, after days of empty forecasts, thunder formed beyond the hills. The storm reached the Turner farm shortly before evening. Noah did not stand on the porch to watch it. He ran from building to building checking the gutters. Water entered the workshop line first. Leaves collected in the basket without blocking the main flow. The first dirty runoff moved through the diversion pipe. When that chamber filled, cleaner water continued toward the storage tank. A repaired joint still leaked. Noah placed a container beneath it. The long gutter on the packing shed trembled but held. Water from the equipment shelter joined the other lines near the tank, and the sound inside the closed container deepened as the level rose. The neighbor who had joked that the Turners were growing rust arrived after the storm. He followed the downpipe from the workshop to the tank, then followed the lower hose toward the vegetable rows. Only then did he understand that the broken gutters from several buildings had become one connected system. "How much water can one roof give you?" he asked. Noah did not answer with the largest number he could imagine. He showed the man the leaking joint, the clogged screen basket, and the section of irrigation line that had failed on higher ground. He explained that roof water was not automatically safe for drinking. The tank needed a secure foundation and a closed cover. Screens required cleaning. Stored water could support only part of the farm. Low pressure limited how far it could travel. Most importantly, the system still depended on rain. It could not collect a storm that never came. The following season, Thomas added another properly supported gutter to the greenhouse roof. They did not connect the system to every field. The water was reserved for seedlings, nursery plants, and several short rows that suffered first when the well slowed. The repaired gutters remained mismatched. Some were silver. Others were brown with old stains. One still carried a shallow dent Noah had never managed to straighten. But none of them led to the ditch anymore. Noah had not deepened the well or ended the drought. He had only stopped allowing water to leave the farm during the few hours when there seemed to be more than anyone needed. When the pump finally went silent, the rain had already been waiting behind the workshop.